Hey everybody, Dan Lasinski here, Dark Angel Cutlery. I am working in the shop here today on a couple little EDCs or everyday carry blades. This is a Japanese 16 layer Hitachi Blue Core Warkonomi steel. I made a through tang blade out of this last week, and I've got that here in my press vise, and I'm getting ready to do some chased rope file work along the spine. And I thought I'd make a little brief video sharing how I do that with you. And it's pretty easy to do, so enjoy. And here we go. So how I start is I take a scribe and I draw a line down the center line of the width of the blade, or the thickness of the blade. And once I have that center line, I take my my caliper and I measure even distances between drill points. And what I do is I take a small drill bit here, and I think this is a 1/8 drill bit. I tried going a little smaller, but the bit was walking on me quite a bit, so I ended up going in with the 1/8. And what I did here was took the 1/8 drill bit and I made my holes. And then I took a file and I made, in same direction, I made a file line at the bottom of the hole going to the halfway point. And then on the opposite side, in the same direction, I made a file line to the top of the hole. So those lines are spaced out by the holes, and the holes are spaced out by the caliper. And that is how you do chased rope. So I went ahead and made the same holes on the back of the through tang version of this knife, and it's a little bit bigger of a blade and not as much area because it's going to be a through tang or a hidden tang in the solid handle. I don't have a lot of area to do the file work on. So obviously I did a little jimping on the back here, this little full tang EDC, and we've got some nice little file work. That this will be filled in with epoxy as well, I should mention, so it might not look like the cleanest file work, but once the epoxy, when I put the handles on, the epoxy will fill in that area, and I'll just take some light sandpaper and smooth it down, and it'll give it a nice dark line. It'll look great. So here we go. The other thing, before I start drilling, I should mention, I use some cutting fluid or tap fluid, and I just go across the spine of the blade where the holes are going to be, and I can just dot. Each one is usually good enough, but a lot of times I'll just make a straight line all the way across them, and then I take my time. I can set my gauge, my depth gauge on my drill press for how deep I want to go, and like I said, I just want to make a divot in the steel, so I think right there looks pretty good. It doesn't need to be deep at all, but you want to try to be consistent with your holes, because if you have some holes that are deeper than others, it's going to look really janky. So, I mean, like I said, it's going to be filled in either way with epoxy, but if we're just going to be making little divots, we don't need to go very deep with this. So, here we go. Wipe it away. Might need to go a little bit deeper. And I forget that the drill bit, once you start putting some pressure on there, it goes down into the head of the drill press. Plus my blade and the vise isn't the tightest, so it probably sunk down a little bit as well. So I go a little deeper and try to get some a little more pressure on it there. And usually you can see a little bit of steel kick up as the drill bit bites in, and that's a good indicator that you've made a nice divot. I mean, most knife makers are familiar with drilling holes for handles and whatnot, so you get a good idea of how much steel is kicking up for how deep you're going. And it looks pretty good. Okay, there's one. Another. again, it's really important these are just centered and evenly spaced. Good. And don't be, I have a milling vise, and in a perfect world, I'd have my milling vise here, and I'd just be, walking the vise and moving the blade with the milling vise, because the milling vise has multiple access, and you can clamp your item down and move it. And, this is it. So just kind of going by hand here and taking my time. It doesn't need to be perfect. If the holes are a little, we're talking less than a millimeter to the left or right, no one's going to notice. It's going to be filled in with epoxy anyway, and you're also going to be cutting, file lines to the top and bottom of these holes. So it's really not going to be noticeable. Don't beat yourself up if the holes walk a little bit, and it'll look cleaned up once we get those file lines on. So with the first one, or with the last one I did, I took the Dremel tool with a cutting disc, and I just made a little nick before I started filing. That way my file lines were nice and consistent and they didn't walk on me. And that seemed to help. So this is blade's got a little bit of the spine's got a little bit of a pitch in the back here, so my bit's trying to walk on me a little bit. So I'm just trying to be a little careful of that, cautious of that. So there we go. Again, sometimes they run a little off. It's not the worst thing in the world. The other thing you can do too, if you start one and it looks like it's off too, you can back away and then just pilot the next one in a little deeper. And let them blend into each other. That's why it's important to take time and not bite deep into it on your first go at each hole. So, make a little mark, start the hole, back it away. All right. So we've got our holes there, and now we'll take the file, and actually I'm going to take the Dremel real quick, and I'm just going to make a couple little nicks, so I'll take you with me. And so I've got my Dremel wheel here, and maybe I can just set this down so I can see what I'm doing. All right. So you see my wheel's pretty worn down, but all I need is a little bit just to kind of bite into it and give myself a line. And that's just the starting point for me. And we're going to go down the other side. I'll start from the top so I can see what I'm doing. All right, now I'll just do a little cleanup. This is very blunt, so it's not really the way I would want to go about it normally, but it's what I got ready, and it's what I'm going to use. So here we go. Now I've got a needle file here, and this is just a hand file. I can take my time kind of digging in here and making my lines look a little more presentable. This is actually a half round, and I use this because it'll soften the line toward the inside of the hole. So I always use the half round side toward the hole. And that'll just kind of make a soft connection there. Just kind of take my time, walk that line right up to the hole. Probably shaking the heck out of the phone here. Table I'm working on has wheels and they're not locked in, so I apologize for the craziness. Make sure I keep the right side of my file here. All right. Let's switch tables because this video is probably super cringe with the shake here. All right. All right, that's better. I'm gonna invest in some stands for my shop here, so if we're gonna do videos, we can do them right. So that side looks good. We've got our diagonal lines going into the bottom of the holes, and now we're going to do the diagonal lines coming from the other side going to the top of the holes. And I guess the key here is to just kind of keep your eye on the holes and make sure that those lines are connecting, because when the epoxy fills in there, that's all you're going to see is the tops of these lines. So even if the line doesn't look like it's making a really smooth transition to your drill hole, it will once you fill it with epoxy, as long as it connects to it. It should, theoretically. Just cut those lines to make that connection best you can. Now I've yet to heat treat this blade, so I can always go back after the fact, and I'm definitely going to have to do a little bit of cleanup after the fact, because there'll probably be some forge scale and stuff in there from heat treating, because I heat treat right in my forge. I don't wrap these in foil or anything. And these crazy knife makers do some fancy heat treat business. I just go at it in a propane forge, heat it up. All right, so I like the way that looks. It looks like they're all connected. I need to get one more here, a little closer to the hole. And that one just kind of seemed a little funky when I was doing it. It's almost like I got a double line or something there, but not too bad. That's all right. Important too to come in at a good angle. You know, there's going to be scales on this too, and the scales are gonna clean it up a bit. So, a little bit of a double line there, but fill that in with epoxy. You're gonna see the deeper line's gonna show up more than the shallower one. And there's other little things I can do to clean this up after the fact as well. Cold out here today. All right. So I like the way that looks. Like I said, after heat treat, I'll clean this up a little bit more. And a little comparison. I've got the other one here. And there's my other one that I did first, and this one. A little bit less file work there, but again, once this is filled in with the epoxy, it's going to look nice and smooth, and that's chased rope. So you just connect in again, drill the holes down the center line, file the bottom of the hole in the same direction, file the top of the hole on the other side, diagonal. So that's it. These are gonna get heat treated in the forge next. Again, like I said, this is 16 layer Japanese Warakanomi. So as you can see those layers. Can't really see them too much in this one because of the grit I used. Had a fresh belt on this, so it cut some heavy grind lines, and this is also hollow ground, so those layers in a hollow grind are going to look closer together. In a flat grind, those layers are more spaced out because you're gradual to your pitch. So if you're working with a multi-layer steel, it's sometimes nice to have a greater pitch to your bevel, and it will make those bevels look a lot nicer. Those bevels will show those layers in steel. But I'm sure this one's going to look great too. Hollow ground. Love a good hollow ground knife. They're sharp as hell and they cut fast. That's all I got for now. I'm going to be heat treating 3 blades in the forge, and along with those 2, 1085 ringed fighter, and this is going to get our stamp as well. So nice ringed dagger. It's not a bayonet blade, technically not a dagger. But I was happy with the grinds there, very happy with the hole I drilled. Nice profile, good looking blade. So kind of a bayonet style blade, but a nice little fighter. So that's what I got. So these are going in the forge, and when I heat up the forge, we're also going to be doing some wakizashis. I got two matching Japanese wakizashis we're going to be making out of 1075. So it should be very resilient blades. But for now, thanks for tuning in. Dan Lusensky, Dark Angel Cutlery. Thanks for coming. Take care, and love each other and be safe.